good morning, and welcome to the Brenda Perryman Show right here on TV 33 WHPR, Comcast 90 in Detroit and Oakland County, and courtesy of the World Wide Web, www.tv33whpr.com. And today is the day I've been looking forward to for so long because I have a guest I've been waiting for so long, and you need to listen. I'm just telling you, I've never been wrong. And we have the Democratic candidate for governor, Mr. Mark Schauer here. Good morning.
Good morning, Brenda.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Great
I
to be
love
with you.
the energy. I
Oh,
love the
I-
energy. I
I'm
heard
feeling
you're helping a flood victim yesterday.
Yes. I am a believer that a picture's worth 1,000 words, that you need to be there. You need to see it, not fly over in a helicopter, but be there. And I know the devastation was incredible in
At my
parts
house,
of Wayne, but especially Oakland, Macomb.
at my house,
So I was in Royal Oak.
everything is out on the front lawn. Everything.
I was driving through the neighborhood, so we learned about a senior citizen, and there are thousands of them. I'm particularly worried about the seniors that can't deal with the damage in
Well,
their basements.
all the stuff was down there, and things are floating around, and they can't lift things.
Well, and Brenda, we brought and we met this woman through a mutual friend. She said no one can find mops and gloves and things, so we brought a bunch of mops.
That was
and these waterproof gloves that go up to about here, and I came in my boots because I didn't know if I'd be walking in water. But in her home, it's similar to water was this high, and there was excrement floating.
Yes,
the sewer backed
tell
up.
me about
it's a
it.
public health issue.
It's very much
But
so.
her furnace was ruined. Her hot water heater was ruined. Her appliances are probably ruined. And so we went through and helped her carry out to the curb furniture, this children's playhouse that she'd been saving for her grandchildren, of course, family photos. We were able to get everything out so we could get this carpet out that was just soaked. That was not replaceable, and so that she could even just start cleaning.
It's like you're starting all over again. And we lost pictures, and that was was hurtful. But threw away couches. My upright freezer was down on its side. I mean, the strength of this water, and my water heater's gone. All of that, and it was like, I've lived in this state all my life. I have never seen anything like it.
And first, I want to salute all of the heroes, the police officers, firefighters, public safety workers, the neighbors who have come to the aid of neighbors. But there are some lessons to be learned here. I mean, these so-called 100-year storms that seem to be happening more often than 100 years.
And people are still denying global warming.
Exactly. When I'm governor, I'm going to lead in addressing climate change, things like renewable energy and protecting our Great Lakes. But there are also real infrastructure issues, Brenda, in terms of our underground. We talk a lot about our roads and bridges, and I was at 696 and 75 yesterday, and it was just a complete washout.
Yes.
Where I think the surface street, like the service drive,
had
is
fallen down,
and the pumps were overwhelmed to pump the water. So, but the underground, the sewer systems, we need to upgrade.
They all need to be upgraded so much. Well, last week I had a guest on who's a national artist, and I guess they drove from Ohio to Michigan, and he asked me during a break, why are the roads so bad in Michigan?
Right.
He said, you can always tell when you get here, and so forth.
We are better than that here in our state.
I thought so.
Our current I'm running for governor for a lot of reasons. One is this current governor's got the wrong priorities. We'll talk about some of those, but he's unable to lead.
Well, speaking of storms, did you hear what he said on that radio show?
I did.
Everybody, they were talking about the storm, and Governor Snyder said, yeah, my lake house had a leak in the roof because a branch fell onto the roof. of his lake house worth $1 million or so.
Right, right.
I mean, just totally disconnected.
Well, and I heard actually the lead-in to that part of that interview was with Frank Beckman, who's a pretty conservative guy, and Rick Snyder was talking about, well, those folks need to, pump out that water, and get that water off the carpeting sooner rather than later. Well, what he doesn't understand is there was excrement on this stuff is ruined. It's not about getting a shop vac.
No.
And sucking up the water. This stuff is ruined, and I'll guarantee you that his homeowner's insurance is going to cover that tree falling on his roof of his vacation house.
It wasn't a tree, it was a branch.
A branch, whatever it was. I'll tell you, his insurance is going to cover it. Most people here, their insurance is not going to take care of them. So that's why I was calling on the governor to call for a state of emergency, which he did after I...
Eventually.
It
didn't happen at first.
But we need FEMA, we need the federal government to help. But you're right, we got to rebuild our infrastructure. And let me say one thing about that. Not only can it help us have the capacity to deal with some of these things, but and make sure our roads and bridges are good and attractive to business, but it's a great jobs program, Brenda. We need jobs.
Yes.
Detroiters and people in Highland Park and Southeast Michigan and communities all around Pontiac, all around the area, need jobs.
Yes.
And this is a great jobs program. I'm a member of the laborers union, and we train, and all of the other trades do too, train people with the skills to rebuild our infrastructure. We ought to get going with it.
Right. I'm gonna move you a little closer to the mic.
All right.
I had a question. Now, what was your trade? What was your occupation?
I want to make sure people know who I am and what they're going to get when I'm governor. I was very fortunate. I was raised by a teacher. My dad was a high school science teacher. My mother was a nurse. You were a teacher.
Yes.
So my father's a retired teacher, but they were public servants. And I think quite honestly, and I was raised in the church by my grandmother. She was a first grade teacher, that I followed their path to public service. And I ran a nonprofit agency, a community action agency. It was born out of the war on poverty. I was responsible for Head Start for preschoolers and Meals on Wheels for seniors and everything in between to provide a ladder out of poverty.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to Albion College.
Oh, I know Albion.
Yes, that's
Wow.
what took me to the Battle Creek part of the state. I never left. I didn't know what I wanted to do after college, but I knew I wanted to go into public service in some way, and wound up in Battle Creek, right near there.
Well, they're so altruistic, believe in helping others and so forth and so on.
But I want people to know, the Republicans are good at attacking. That's what all their, my opponent, I like to refer to him as that, the guy that's in there now, he's just stuck sort of in the low to mid 40% in terms of percentage of people that would reelect him. So it's because he, cut $1 billion from our schools and raised taxes
our pensions,
tax retiree pensions, and raised taxes on working families and the working poor, all to give his $1.8 billion corporate tax giveaway. That's not working, by the way, and even when companies sent jobs overseas, he's very unpopular, and he's done much more, right to work and so forth, and taken away democracy from our cities and assigned all these emergency managers. But all they do is attack me, but one of the things they say is, well, I've never run anything. Well, I ran this nonprofit. We had 200 employees, a $4 million budget, 4 counties. As I said, provided a lot of important services to help people. I think that's what we need right now.
To help people. And nobody's really looking for a handout. They just, they want the opportunity. Right, absolutely. Now, I have some of the things that you're want to promote. You want to invest in education.
Yes, number one.
And make us competitive, make our young people competitive for great jobs.
Number one. Well, and as the son and grandson of public school teachers, a product of public education, that I used to run Head Start, I know that education truly is the silver bullet in our society. The key to a good job is a good education. And I'm going to be the education governor and mean it, Brenda. And we have a constitutional...
He cut a lot from education, $1 billion, and then we lost that $1 billion somewhere.
Well, it went to pay for this corporate tax giveaway.
Absolutely.
Even when companies outsource jobs. So the states that have lower unemployment rates, faster growing economies, pay higher wages to people, educate their people. And so I believe it's a moral responsibility. It's the way to do right by our kids, but it makes us more competitive. And so, the EAA is another thing this governor has done to public education. All of these for-profit charter schools, these for-profit virtual schools it is a conscious agenda that they have to undermine public education. As a retired teacher, that teachers have been under attack.
Always, and I never understood that.
And I believe that teachers are the most important profession in our society, and we ought to treat them as such. And of course, we need high standards and accountability.
Of course.
But and we have to demand excellence. But you do that by supporting teachers, make sure we have the best highly trained teachers. We provide continued support. We have all of this is in my jobs plan, by the way, that people can get by going to my website, markschauer.com. By the way, I want to make sure people can spell
your last name.
Schauer, markschauer.com. But they can read about it. But, teachers need to have class sizes that are manageable, all the things that are. But I want to take the profit motive out of education and put those dollars into our classrooms to help our kids.
Well, I know people who teach in the EAA, and I can't call it teaching because there's only so much you're allowed to do.
Right.
They have those children on computers and everything. It's just ridiculous.
No, and it really has been, was financially built on a house of cards. It's, they tried a pilot program of 100 kindergartners in a classroom. Are you kidding me?
There's no way. No way.
And this is personal for me, Brenda. I joke with my wife. I always tell people I'm sure I don't look old enough to be a grandfather. She says, yeah, you do. We have 5 little grandkids. My oldest grandson just finished kindergarten this past year. He's going to be a first grader. So when kids are in more crowded classroom, they don't have basic services like art and music and libraries and so many other vocational education for older kids.
So, it's like when you don't have those things and the programs are cut, too many kids in the classroom, it's like you're building a permanent underclass.
Right.
Because these young people won't be able to compete.
Right, that's right. And, another piece of that we haven't talked about, and I think is implicit from me having run Head Start for over 400 children, I want to put Michigan on a pathway to publicly funded universal preschool. So every child at least gets to that starting line, but then we need to support our kids afterwards.
Absolutely.
So that every child graduates, completes high school with the tools they need. And here's the thing, that we got a pipeline to prison right now. And there's, a pipeline to violence.
Yes.
Youth violence right now, or violence against young people of color. In particular, we need a pipeline to jobs. And
yes.
Education is the key to doing that.
Yes, education and jobs and so forth. We have a call on the line. Good morning, Tom. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
You know what, in terms of what just happened here this past Monday, I mean, it's very obvious that, infrastructure needs to be taken care of. And I remember with the president of the American Jobs Act bill, he had $2 billion that was slated to come here to put people to work and to start working on the infrastructure. And now, as far as your platform and what have you, is this going to be something that is going to be a high priority, in your platform as you seek the office of governor? And once you're there, we don't need to go through nothing like this again. I mean, because,
Absolutely.
It's just horrendous when you look at, what people lost. And, from photos all the way up to, furniture. Is that going to be a main priority of yours? And I'll listen off there.
Thanks, Tom,
very
for
high
everything.
priority, Tom. Thank you for your call.
And he's a big supporter of yours, too.
Well, thank you, Tom, for your support. Please spread the word. But I want you to tell people about my views on infrastructure. It's the best jobs program that I can think of. And when I was in the state legislature, you asked a little bit about my background. I was in the legislature for 12 years, always represented tough Republican districts. So I know how to win these races. I've beaten 2 Republican incumbents, out of touch Republican incumbents like our current one. But when I was in the legislature, that was the last time we put money in to fix our infrastructure in a big way. When I was in Congress, helped bring $900 million of additional money here. But I was on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, and it's frustrating to see a Congress that is deadlocked. But one of the reasons I'm running for governor is we can do things here. And we are going to do this. And in my jobs plan, and again, I really recommend you look at it. Go to markschauer.com/jobs plan. And one of the centerpieces is, I call it the Rebuild Michigan Initiative. And we're not only going to be rebuilding our roads and bridges, but our underground infrastructure. And again, as you said, this Monday is a demonstration of the fact that we need to do this. And look, we need to get more help from Washington, but we need to lead. We need a leader here that can get it done. It's going to take, this current governor, he's failed in doing this because he just wanted to raise taxes on retirees and the middle class again. The gas tax, vehicle registration fee. He's refusing to bring businesses to the table that benefit from good infrastructure. Like you said, from folks that came up here from Ohio, as soon as you cross the border, that sends all the wrong message
and they
to
said,
businesses.
And the gentleman said, and for this to be the Motor City.
We are the best state, and but there's been a systematic strategy of disinvestment in our people, disinvestment in our cities in terms of police and fire cuts, and inability to deal with blight, and of course they just send in emergency managers, which doesn't help.
They're all over.
So we need an investment strategy, and rebuilding our infrastructure, investing in our infrastructure, not only makes us more competitive. It's a pay now or pay later. It's going to get more and more expensive, and when you have a disaster like this, look at the cost of that. And and I experienced a pipeline disaster in my district, in right near Battle Creek in Marshall, when this Enbridge oil pipeline spilled. That's another case in point. When you make the investments up front, you take care of maintenance on an ongoing basis, you avoid millions and millions and millions of dollars. But when we do the work up front, puts people to work.
Well, I have a question. You want to grow the economy from the middle out. What does that mean?
Well, Michigan built the middle class. The labor movement built the middle class in this great state, and collective bargaining was a part of that. That's why I opposed right to work for less. I was on the front lines of the protests, got the pepper spray to prove it, Brenda. But what my opponent and company have been doing is they practice trickle-down economics. Big corporate tax breaks, the jobs never trickle down. We know things like raising the minimum wage, reversing the Snyder job-killing pension tax, restoring the earned income tax credit for the working poor and the child tax credit for our families, making sure that jobs pay, that women earn the same pay as men for doing the same job.
Well, and then I'm going to
things.
tell you, speaking of seniors, and we have someone on the line,
Right.
but speaking of seniors, the Meals on Wheels, that has been cut. It's ridiculous. We have Tina on the line. Good morning. Good morning. Hello.
Candidate Mark Schauer.
Hi, Tina.
Hi. First of all, I want to let you know I am one of the people who is on your team. I have canvassed for you in my nearby neighborhood and will continue to do so.
That's how we win.
Pardon me?
That is how we win,
absolutely. Right? That is how we win. And I will say this, for the people who I got responses for with my door knocks and so forth, it's been very, very positive. Now, what I need to have from you is some more talking bullet points for the ones who may be a little bit leery of voting now simply because of the dictator governor we have now. reversing all of the voting things that we voted for.
Right.
I mean, all of the bills we vote for and the petitions and so forth.
Absolutely.
They turn around and reverse them. And people were like, well, why should I bother? Why should I bother? They do what they want to do anyway.
Right.
What would you like me to say on my behalf and also on your behalf when I'm on somebody's porch?
Yes.
And they tell me that.
Well,
what would you like me to
tell
say?
them a couple of things. One is that restoring democracy is a priority of mine. I mean, look, we need a functioning democracy and a functioning government. And if there are any emergency managers that are here when I become governor in January 1 of 2015, they're going to go. And we're going to, the duly elected officials.
You said they're going to go?
They're going to go.
Oh, wow.
Duly elected
That's a scoop.
representatives, there you have it, will be running their communities. For example, in Detroit, Detroiters will run Detroit. That's the way it should be. But you can tell them a couple of things, and some of this I've actually included in my jobs plan. We're going to change the law to make sure that the legislature can't play these games like they've done on a number of issues, whether it's right to work for less, where they put in a little appropriation which blocks the voters from being able to hold a referendum on it. They play these games all the time. We're also going to make voting easier. I think that's very important. There should be no reason absentee voting, early voting. We're going to change the way districts are drawn. You know how
Oh, yes. That's
crazy
very, the
that
gerrymandering.
The gerrymandering,
the gerrymandering.
yeah.
Yes.
So you tell folks that, you know, of course, our number one priority is getting the economy going, as we talked about, building the economy from the bottom up. But we've got to, you know, we have to empower people. This is their democracy. And right now, here's the thing, you know, the other side has figured out that their policies are out of touch with the mainstream. And so they're catering to a very narrow set of interest groups at the top, right, who are benefiting from their policies. So they know they're out of step with the voters, so they keep tilting the playing field in a way that rigs the game. We're going to tilt the playing field back. All we need is a fair playing field, and then we can get the kinds of government that will produce the kinds of policies that actually help people.
Right.
Okay, and Mr. Schauer, one more thing I would like to know. This is for me personally. What is your feeling on toll roads? I am very sick and tired of these ragged roads with all these holes in them, like you guys were talking about coming from on the interstate from one state to the other.
Right.
You could go to poor states like West Virginia, Mississippi, and they got smooth roads. It's like riding on butter or something. It's really nice.
Right.
And we come here, boom, 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 bang, bang. They all have tolls. So I paid going to West Virginia. I think I've gone through about 6 toll booths.
Yeah,
or something.
well, they also had a guy named Robert Byrd, who was their senator, who was the longest-serving senator that brought home a lot of money for their roads. So we do need our fair share from Washington, and I'm going to work with. One of the reasons we got to get Gary Peters elected to the U.S. Senate to help us do that. We've got some new members of Congress. I expect Brenda Lawrence will be one of them, and others to work on that. But my honest answer is toll roads are not the answer in Michigan, because what we'd have to do is all of the roads that have been constructed, say I-94, I-75, you pick, those were built 80% with federal money. We'd have to pay the federal government all that money back in order to turn it into a toll road. So that's, if we're building a new road, that's something we could talk about. But we got to look at the fundamentals of having a fair, balanced way to pay for our roads. Right now, what my opponent and his Republican legislature continue to insist on doing is raising taxes on the same people they've already raised taxes on, retirees and the middle class. Businesses need to pay their fair share. The heavy trucks that are beating up our roads need to pay their fair share.
Absolutely.
So
something's got to be done.
It has to be done. It is. They know this, and you know, this governor. I got to tell you, leadership matters too.
No doubt.
When the Democrats and Republicans, this was earlier in the summer before they went on their vacation, they were trying to work out a deal. And our governor, instead of being there with his sleeves rolled up working on a solution, a bipartisan solution, he was in New York City with billionaire Michael Bloomberg at a fundraiser for his campaign for governor, and he phoned it in. We need someone who will be there. I'm going to, as a former legislator, I know how legislators work and think. I'm going to build relationships with Democrats and Republicans because we're going to need them both. The roads are bad whether you're a Democrat in your district, whether you're a Democrat or Republican. People are complaining about them whether you're a Democrat or Republican. I'll guarantee you that.
Right.
And it hurts our economy because businesses, if they have choice between Ohio or Michigan based on infrastructure, they're not coming here. And again, this is the best jobs program that I can think of, and we're going to put tens of thousands of skilled trades workers. These are mostly union workers who do this work. They need jobs, and we and going back to the pipeline to jobs, what I'd like to do is take our building trades unions, reach right into the middle school. I think we got to reach into the middle school and expose young people to these incredible career opportunities.
Well, I know people who actually got a whiff of what they wanted to do in middle school.
Right.
But if the programs are being cut, you cannot do that. And so much I can't understand people cutting from education.
Exactly right.
Well, I can understand it because when you do that, that means you're feeding the prison system.
Well, as I mentioned, you're building a permanent underclass.
A permanent underclass, and that is going to feed into the prison system because when people have no skills, they can't qualify for jobs, they have no hope, so they turn to the other stuff, which is a bad thing.
See, what my opponent and his party don't understand is to have a thriving economy, you need people working and earning a good wage.
That's right.
You need a real middle class. And what's clear, the one thing Rick Snyder, I usually don't say his name, but I'll say it.
Yeah, please don't even say his name.
All right,
don't even mention it.
The nerd he said he was going to do.
He gives nerds a bad name.
He does. He said he was going to do trickle down economics. That's the one. He was going to give big corporate tax giveaway. That's what he said he was going to do, and that's what he did. Of course, we know he paid for it by cutting our schools, raising taxes on retirees and others, but. What happens when you do trickle down is you widen the gap between those at the top and everybody else. And that's what's happening here in Michigan. And when you combine right to work for less with that, you continue to drive down wages. And that economic model is not sustainable. So that's why we need an economy that works for everyone, not just the wealthy. And that's the way to get economic growth going.
And with this,
and I'm not going to hold up the whole show, Brenda, but just one more question, if you don't mind, and I'm going to hang up. What about this business of them trying to get rid of our land phones, Mark Schauer? I mean, what the heck is going on there?
Yeah, no, I don't support that.
That's ridiculous.
This is something that the big phone companies are pushing, and it's acknowledgement that more people are using cell phones, wireless, all of that. These voice over internet protocol in your home and all that. But look, there still has to be an option for especially seniors in their home to keep their landline.
And how about businesses? I mean, how would you like to call a business that has a cell phone?
Right.
Thank you so much. I'm not going to hold
you so much.
Thanks for your help.
We have 2 other calls, and soon we have to call this to closure.
The lightning round. Short answers.
Yes, Theo, good morning. Good morning.
Hi, as a matter of fact, to both of you, this is Theo Brocher from Hood Research.
How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Good. I'm glad to hear you're back at Detroit again and looking forward to you coming back to our Hood Research meeting. My concern has to be education because that's how we build the next generations to stand with us to help a better quality community. Benjamin Davis Aerospace School, which is a public school, had provided excellent opportunities for young people to graduate from high school and be able to sustain themselves and their families. And I wanted to hear you talk about how you're going to reverse some of the destructive acts that have been done by this current governor on our school system.
Right. Well,
Thank you, Theo.
Thank you, Theo. I remember meeting you at a neighborhood meeting the first time, probably well over a year ago, and come to Hood Research, and I'll come back. You're a great community leader and activist in Detroit.
She is. Yes.
But we've got to commit to our public school districts. I mean, our Constitution guarantees a quality, free public education for every child. So I'm going to make I'm going to be the public education governor. So this EAA, I think it's kind to even call it a failed experiment. It's got to go. You got to take the profit motive out of education. So many dollars are going to these for-profit, not just charter schools, but these virtual schools. I'll tell you, I drive all over the place. I was just coming back from northern Michigan. It is a money-making operation. They got these lawn signs saying free virtual public school, all of that. I mean, they set kids in front of a computer terminal with a headset rather than classrooms with highly trained teachers. So, Theo, it's very simple. I'm going to support Detroit Public Schools. I'm going to support all of our public schools.
Well, I appreciate that. And one last thing, have your research team look into Central Michigan University.
Yeah.
They have one of the most devastating things going on. They support EAA. They also support charter schools. And they also, Brenda Perryman, support staffs who, if they get $1 million, the head of the staff gets half of that. And the board members, one of the board members seems to be a relative of this particular staff member. This is a court case going on, but you should have your research. That would be some good information for your campaign.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. We have Renee on the line. We'll take one more call. Good morning.
Good morning, Miss Perryman and Governor Schauer.
Good morning, Renee.
yeah.
We're working on it.
Oh,
we're going to get
she's
there. We're
already
working on it.
Yeah, I see it, and I believe it, and I say it so because Snyder got to go.
Yes.
Emergency management. I live in Pontiac. Our city is gone. They no fire department. They sold the water department. Everything regionalized, privatized. No community centers for the children. We have some for the older people, but not the children. No police departments out to the county. You name it, everything, about almost everything else is gone elsewhere. Are you going to get rid of the emergency managers?
Yes. And
I mean,
will use
that'd be like first priority because I'm telling you, they are wiping us out.
Yes.
They only one that's making money, and I'm going to let you answer. I'm going to just give you a bit. We have this is illegal. They Schimmel left the city administrator, and that's not in the Emergency Management Act. His name is Joseph Boda. He gives himself a $20,000 raise.
Emergency manager by another name.
Right, Joseph Boda is the city administrator. Lou Schimmel is now as a tab board, and the council cannot act anything financial. The tab board has to agree. If they don't, you don't get it. And they turn down a lot of money, and we need resources, and nobody's working. We don't have a DPW, anything. Everything's privatized. So I want to let you elaborate on that.
I will take a very different approach. I mean, first of all,
Thank you, Renee.
The arrogance of this governor and legislature after the voters overturned Public Act 4 and imposed in this lame duck session last time Public Act 436. It's the exact same thing. It allows for emergency managers with total power and accountable to only one person, and that's the governor. And I'm going to take a very different approach, a proactive approach. I'm going to value our cities and restore revenue sharing cuts and make sure that they have a real partner in the governor's office. And look, and I know we're about out of time, Brenda, but I'll say the kinds of things we get with emergency managers are the pension cuts to Detroit City pensioners that are coming up under this bankruptcy.
Devastating.
It was this emergency manager under orders from our current governor that put the pensions of hardworking Detroit City pensioners on the chopping block. That violates our Constitution. So talk about undermining our democracy. It violates our own Constitution. It's throwing pensioners under the bus. It goes way too far. It's wrong.
Right. Now, where will you be? Will you be in the area today and tomorrow?
I want to talk. I'm glad you asked. I've got the Michigan African American Alliance is hosting tomorrow a community conversation breakfast meeting. It's going to be at the Michigan Laborers Local Union Hall, 2161 West Grand Boulevard. What time is that meeting, Greg? 8:30 in the morning. Sorry about that. I had to ask Reverend Greg Roberts. 8:30 in the morning, tomorrow morning, which is Saturday. again, at Labor's Local Union 1191, 2161 West Grand Boulevard. It's open to the public. We're going to have a conversation about these issues and much more. I hope everyone can come.
Well, we really appreciate it. And I'm going to ask you something. Would you come back?
I would love to.
I really want you to come back because I haven't gone through all my points.
Let's do it.
And I want you to come back and we'll do a whole show.
Great.
I want you to carve out that hour and we'll take all the questions. Okay.
Look forward to it.
So I'll
Brenda.
make arrangements again with Kathy.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much. It's my honor. You've got a great show. You've got a great audience.
Oh, thank you very much. And everybody, here he is.
And I'll say, if folks vote, we're going to win. And we need people to turn out, get involved in the coordinated campaign. We can talk more about that next time.
And we'll talk about that and the fact that people have to know that their vote does count.
Absolutely.
Okay, everybody. I'll be right back with Rodney Patrick, Councilman.